1 second, guys. We'll be starting in 1 second. Hello, ladies and gentlemen of the Future Fandation. I know, it's just me. It's Fernie today. Gabe's at work, making that money. He's doing his thing, respectfully. Hopefully, we're going to get together. We're going to have a spoilery filled stream about Invincible. But that's not the stream today. Usually, on Fridays, we break down into Invincible and we start talking about it. But since Gabe isn't here and I don't want to, go on into it, I'm just gonna go into something that I've been kind of really wanting to get off my chest for a long time. I'll be honest. I've been wanting to talk about this, and I was watching some more of the topic we're talking about today. I was watching some more CW shows, and I was kind of getting mad because they're really rough, man. Like a lot of people have been saying for a long time, the CW DC shows are rough, and hey, respectfully, I agree. Yeah, for the most part, they have been, but for me, they've been bearable. Now they're just getting to the point where they're unbearable, and I'm getting kind of upset. And then one of my favorite CW DC shows is Grant Gustin's The Flash, and if you read the title, homie's trying to leave. Homie's trying to leave the Flash, man, and it's like, okay, I get it. It's like it's 7 seasons long right now, and I don't think he meant. I don't know what his plan was, how long he wanted to play, or what he wanted. But apparently, a lot of it's also because of drama. Apparently, he didn't like how they treated Homeboy, Mr. Elastic, or whatever, the elongated man. Although that was a kind of a sensitive topic, but apparently there's a lot of drama going on the CW DC side that a lot of actors are digging. Apparently, also the actor who plays Rory from Legends of Tomorrow, Firestorm, or not Firestorm. I think he's just Rory. I don't know if he has a name. He has the fire gun. Heatwave. I think it's Heatwave. Homie that's playing Heatwave. apparently he wants to be out too. Apparently this is his last season of Legends. I honestly thought Legends would be done with this last season, but apparently they still have plans to continue, which kind of interesting. But for now, Rory, this might be his last season, which is kind of sad. He's probably one of the better characters of that show. But okay, we're gonna be breaking down every show basically from order of release, and then I'm gonna talk about it and how it started, how it ended, or if it's continuing thing, how it started, how it's going now. But before we do that, let's hop into the theater. Quiet the music. Silence, I said. We have to be quiet in the theater. No music in the theater. Okay, look. So this is coming from, this is the website comicbooknews.com. But the source is coming from Daniel Rickman. He's the scooper. We talk about Daniel Rickman quite frequently here on the channel. He's quite one of the scoopers out here. Look at him. Look at the boy. Look at my boy. Getting hot COVID particle all over his suit. All right. It's claimed that Grant Gustin may be quitting the Flash series, and that things at the CW regarding the DC shows are a big mess. Oh no. The info about Grant Gustin potentially leaving the Flash comes from Daniel Rickman, who claims the CW is trying to convince Grant to stick around. So, probably stay more seasons. Probably do what they did with homeboy Stephen Amell. Stephen Amell really didn't want to stick around anymore, but they paid him a lot of money, and they're all like, hey, here's a lot of money, and we'll give you a cool write-off if you do one more season. And that's what happened with Crisis. And yeah, no, they paid Stephen Amell a lot of money to keep him around for one more season. So they're trying to convince Grant to stick around for multiple seasons. Man, Grant might be getting the bag. So I mean, hey, I haven't seen Grant Gustin do any other roles. Maybe he's trying to branch out, but I mean, as of right now, he's just been on the Flash. Let's see. And in separate rumor, the scooper claimed that the Arrowverse shows, so that's basically the CWDCU, if you will. It's the Arrowverse. They're having a lot of issues behind the scenes with actors wanting to leave because of the way producers are and the bigger ups are acting. Yeah, see, like I said, the actor who played Rory, apparently he's out. I wonder who else is, let's see. Worth a mention, the rumors that follow the recent controversy surrounding Dominic Purcell leaving. That's probably Rory. Yeah. Rumors may actually have some merit to them, specifically the Grant Gustin rumor, as one more to the occasion. Grant Gustin has talked about leaving The Flash and doing other projects. I mean, that's fair. As pointed out in Giant Freak Robot, Grant Gustin appeared on Michael Rothenberg's Inside You podcast a year ago, let it be known that he let other opportunities pass just to be tied up with The Flash. Ooh, okay. I can see how that's annoying. What if he got an opportunity with the MCU? No. I'm very aware, especially in certain moments, how lucky I am and how different things could have gone until this point. But there's plenty of things that I feel like I've missed out on. I guess I reveal the past 4 hiatus now. I've had a hiatus project that has fallen through because of The Flash. Aww. And a lot of other opportunities that have gone away because of scheduling conflicts. Damn. He wanted to leave The Flash after 2 seasons? Damn. Homeboy didn't want to stick around. Grant Gustin has revealed that if not for his contracts for the first couple of seasons locking him in, he might have quit The Flash over attitude of working with guest directors, but says everything has worked out. Oh my gosh. When we're talking about those earlier stressful seasons, if I could have, there were plenty of crew members that walked out after season 2. Damn, people quit after season 2, like camera people and shit, like the random people, like the me's of the crew. Probably would have also, but I was just too stressful. It's too hard. Hours are ridiculous. I just have walked after season 2. Well, yeah, think about that, dude. It's like 24 episodes a season? Bro, that's a lot. That's a lot. Grant has also pointed out this current contract ends with the current season 7. Oh, man. I could definitely see myself doing more than just one season that I have left on the contract. Oh, wait, I could definitely see myself doing more than just the one season I have left on this current contract. 7 seasons is it for most of the cast, actually. But I think it'd be great if we could continue after that. So he's like down, but he's also not down. In February, the CW did renew The Flash for another season, but if Grant leaves, they can simply replace the character with another version of Bart Allen, who is coming to this season. Oh, that's true. Bart Allen is coming this season, and he's gonna be his son, not his grandson. So he's more of an adult. Huh. I wouldn't like that. I wouldn't like that at all. Would not. But I mean, I'll accept it. Damn it. Fuck. I don't like it. Don't quit. I mean, if you quit, don't spin it off. We don't need any more spin-offs. We don't. We'll talk about some spin-offs in a second. Let's go back in. Let's go back. Let's start. Let's start this. Oh my gosh. Okay. So, we're going to start all the way in the beginning. Back when the CW DC universe, the CW DCU, if you will. Back when they started with this little show called Arrow right here. Now, Arrow was quite the show. The first couple of seasons were pretty fantastic, if I do say so myself. A lot of people fell off after season 2 and 3. Me personally, I fell off after season 5 because season 5 was fucking terrible. But season 1 was like really good. I kind of like how the CW kind of changed the narrative. This was like the first kind of switch in like the DC where they made a ridiculous character kind of more serious, you know, like Zack Snyder made Aquaman very like Macho Man and serious and stuff like that. But if you think about it, they kind of did it first with Arrow because the Green Arrow was definitely very not taken serious in the comics at all. He was just an archer that dressed up like Robin Hood. But this show CW kind of like made him their Batman a little bit. If you think about it, he kind of assembled the brand new Justice League. He was like the money man for a big period of time. He was like the tech guy for a long period of time. So he kind of was like the Batman of the TV universe, which is kind of interesting, kind of really cool how they did that. As I said, season 1 and 2 were very like grounded, you know, like fighting, punch. And it's really cool. I want to point out the action in the Arrow. Arrow kind of was like on par with Daredevil. Daredevil probably is way better when it comes to action, but like it kind of was on par. Like there was action scenes every episode. I remember it's like a 24 episode season. Action scenes every episode with amazing choreography and camera work. And it was kind of cool. Definitely very cool. But it kind of gets me mad because I think about shows like Falcon and Winter Soldier where it's kind of the same genre. Obviously not, because it's different themes and different heroes, but you know, they're like more like action packed shows. And you know, people were saying, oh, we got enough action, we definitely got enough action in Falcon and Winter Soldier. But it's like you watch an episode of Arrow and it's like, damn, the entire episode has probably more action than half the season. So it's like, I do admire that of the CW shows. Like all of their shows do that. They definitely, like, you know, some that require more powers, they definitely lean into the more powers and CGI. Like the Flash doesn't have that much fighting in it, but they try to use his speed as much as possible and kind of get like new like things. But other shows, like for example Supergirl, there's a bunch of different. Her show is basically a team up show now. We'll talk about that later. But the way they use everyone's powers is kind of cool and creative. So that I do admire of these CW shows. But Arrow, really strong start. And then in the middle there was like some very cringe seasons. Like season 4 and 5 were really bad. A lot of characters getting teed up for greatness and then like flopped. They introduced a bunch of characters like so that spinned off into other shows. For example, they introduced Barry Allen in Arrow, which when I watched that live in real time, I flipped. I was like, "Holy crap, that's Barry Allen!" Like, are they gonna do the Flash? Like, is this gonna? And then I found out they're doing a Flash show, and then oh my god, everything started going from there, right? But Arrow did it for the first one. They introduced Barry Allen. They introduced Ray Palmer, who eventually became the Atom, and then left to Legends of Tomorrow, which I do have a problem with that in particular, which we'll talk about later. But very cool, very cool. Oh, sorry, I have a random thought. Lost my train of thought because I had a random thought. You ever have that? It's annoying. All right, so really cool. They introduced a lot of characters, but they also do introduce a lot of characters that also went to like nowhere. Like I think in there, I think Wild Dog is the one they introduced later. It was like they introduced this really cool like Mexican boxer character that was like from the comics, and he was definitely like a love interest, and he was gonna be like really really cool and really like a bigger part. And I was super excited to see him, and then blah. And there's a lot of characters like that were big in the comics that they never went anywhere with. So that's like cool and exciting. And then ironically, season 5 was like the worst season, and it ended with him being happy, which is kind of sad to think that a season with him ending happy was like the one that was like the worst received. But after season 5, there was like maybe half a season of garbage because he kind of had to explain season 5 again. But then it started picking up, and it started getting good. It started like the last season and a half of Arrow. I'm not considering the last season of Arrow an actual season, in my honest opinion. The last season of Arrow was season 8, I believe. Kind of just felt like a wrap up. It kind of just felt like it was literally there to explain Crisis on Infinite Earth and to explain just like one episode to like wrap up his like Oliver Queen story. I don't really count it. Like season 7 and below, like 6. Basically, season 7 and half of season 6 were basically really good on Arrow. They brought back the action. They brought back a lot of emotional things. Really cool villains that actually were just like really dark and really like, oh shit, you didn't expect that. Then they introduced this weird thing with his future timeline with his daughter. And that's where the show started to become really trash again. Because it was going in a really good direction, and then they were really pushing this timeline. And why would they push this timeline, you may ask? Because there was supposed to be a spin-off of Arrow called the Green Arrow and the Canaries, which was going to take place in like 2055 or like 2075 or some shit. And it was like in the future where she's like the Oliver Queen's daughter is like the new Green Arrow. And it was a whole bunch of bullshit. Like, it was trash, dude. Like, literally the last episode of Arrow ever was essentially like the soft pilot for this show, and it was the worst thing I've ever seen. But they start introducing those characters in, right? And then the show just immediately starts turning into a bunch of crap. You're just like, oh god, what the fuck is this? This is annoying. This is like, oh gosh. And then even like the actress who played Felicity, one of the best characters in the show, up and left. She wanted to do Broadway, I'm pretty sure, or like do what she's busting a Grant Gustin. She busted a Grant Gustin before Grant Gustin could bust. Oh shit, why'd I say that? Well then, you know what I mean. She left the show because she wanted to do other shit, which is commendable, which is respectable for some of these actors. They don't want to be tied down. That's why Homeboy the original actor who played the Hulk, didn't want to be the Hulk. That's why Mark Ruffalo got the job. He didn't want to get tied down in the role. Same thing with the actor who played War Machine in the first Iron Man. He didn't want to get tied down. Now, on the Marvel side, it's definitely a big mistake. But on the DC TV shows, I think they're fine. Now, we'll talk more about Crisis a little bit more in the stream, but a thing I do want to talk about is after the events of Crisis. In Crisis of Infinite Earth, the big, 7-episode crossover between all these fucking shows. I think it was 5 episodes, actually, because the last 2 weren't out yet. It basically was this giant mess of. There was some cool moments, definitely cool moments, cool moments, but definitely a giant mess. Um, and Oliver Queen dies, right? Dead, like Ripperoni. Sorry for the spoiler. Ripperoni, Oliver Queen's dead, but the Spectre of the multiverse like saves him, and he's like, "Hi, I'm a random guy, but I'm the Spectre. I'm very important in the comics. I'm the guardian within all space and time of the multiverse. Um, I can no longer be the Spectre, but it's your turn to be the Spectre." And Oliver Queen was like, "Okay, I guess I'll be the Spectre now." And then everyone was like, oh man, Oliver Queen's dead. I'm all sad. And then Oliver Queen shows up and he's like, "Hey, what's up, guys? I'm the Spectre." And everyone's like, "Oliver, oh my gosh." And he was like, "I'm not Oliver. I may look like Oliver, but I am the concept of," and like oh gosh. It was just, so Oliver became this giant being of space-time, and essentially after he became really big and fought the Anti-Monitor and kicked his ass and reshaped the multiverse, causing a brand new multiverse. Because in the Arrowverse, starting with like the Flash and Flashpoint, they started a multiverse, right? And they had this crazy fucking multiverse with that had all these different Earths that they introduced and they teased throughout all the years of the CW shows. But then Crisis on Infinite Earth completely like wiped all of that, creating a brand new multiverse, which introduced some of these new shows, and also created something called Earth Prime, which all the original CW shows are now on within one Earth, like, you know, combining, because originally Supergirl was actually on Earth 2. No, she was Earth 3 actually, and Black Lightning was on Earth 5 or some shit like that, and Batwoman was on Earth 2. And it was just like a big mess. And then they used Crisis on Infinite Earths to combine all of them into one Earth. And the person who did that was Oliver Queen. So Arrow went from a show which was basically CW's Batman with a bow, and it somehow turned into a crazy convoluted story where he became a giant Spectre of the multiverse, literally, saving and combining and creating new multiverses. It was absolutely nuts and insane and not satisfying at all. And then it was like his final goodbye episode was not even that satisfying either, because the actress who played Felicity didn't come back. So they just had to pull scenes from like her other episodes, and it just felt so weird. And like other actors came back, but it just didn't feel like a satisfying ending, and I don't know, it didn't feel satisfying of an ending. But hey, Oliver finally got his ending 8 years later, and yeah, so with Arrow, with a very strong start, and not a very strong end. Very cool end what they did with Crisis. I like the twist that they did with Crisis, but for the end of Oliver's story, and they also, you know, there's a character named John Diggle in there, who, really cool. Everyone in the CW, fan base, thought basically he was a play on Jon Stewart, right? Because his middle name or some shit was Stewart. And his name is John, or his second last name is Stewart or something. I forgot how it was in the show, but his name is John, so technically his name is John Diggle Stewart. So everyone's like, "Oh my God, it's Jon Stewart," and you know, there was a play, and there was always people saying that he was gonna become Green Lantern. And in the final episode of Arrow, they teased that Diggle finds a ring, and you know, apparently he's gonna be in a bunch of different shows. Like, he's gonna be in one episode of 4 different shows within this season of the Arrowverse. So who knows where we're gonna get Green Lantern? There's some Green Lantern news today we can talk about later. They basically casted homeboy from American Horror Story as the douchebag Green Lantern, so that's cool. But yeah, John Diggle was teased to become the Green Lantern, so that's basically Arrow. It was definitely a giant mess. Started off really cool, But yeah, and that kind of sets the precedent of the future of the show that we're talking about here. Because next we're talking about The Flash. Now, The Flash is a big one for me. I am a big Speedster fan at heart. I love The Flash as a character. Like, not before I even liked the show. I have, like, so much that I even made my own, like, parody show called Fast Food, right? That's, like, up on YouTube. If you had wanted to see me as a speedster, that the whole premise of that is I'm a speedster who only gets his speed from eating junk food. Then you go watch that. That's on the, like, Fernie Sita on YouTube. It's called Fast Food. It's like 2 episodes out. I didn't finish episode 3. But I based that show based around The Flash, and that's just to show how much I like The Flash. So when they introduced The Flash back in season 1 or season whatever of Arrow, but like teasing up for his show, that was so exciting, dude, because that was a different version of The Flash, man. That was back when it was like Barry Allen, dude, when he was just a forensic scientist, and they really went ham on it. See, episode 1 episode 1, season 1 of The Flash is like really cool. They really go into the forensic side of Barry Allen, and like he's investigating a crime scene and everything, and it just shows how smart Barry is. And I was like, dude, they need to bring some more of that back. CW, and if anyone from the CW is watching, bring back that. Bring back the forensic scientist of Barry. They're doing it a little bit with this season, but he's more of just like, they're using it more as like a play just for him to be at the crime scene. It's like, nah, man. Like, I want to see him actually doing some like science. Yeah, I get it. You could do it faster with your super speed, but it's cool like seeing you figure that shit out. And the effects that they were doing back in the pilot was so cool, man. He would look at the ground and you would see a line and measurements. You were like, this is a 6-inch tire track with that's a certain brand because look at the ridges. It was like super good, man. It was like some Batman shit. And they stopped doing that like immediately. And it was like some of the best thing. It was like the coolest thing. It was the most Barry Allen thing. And they're just like, nah, man, we're just going to lean on the Barry Allen's a good person. Because he is, but he's also like a smart and a goofball and like as heart, you know? So it's like, man, but the thing with The Flash though, I really liked season 1. Season 2 was pretty good too. Season 3 was good, and then like they started getting a little more, you know, team aspect, and then like multiverse and Flashpoint, and they were always just like throwing stuff around. For the most part, the first 6 seasons of The Flash, I thoroughly enjoyed. I thought it was really cool. That's like The Flash for the most part was like the only show that I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. The effects are really cool. It inspired me on effects and stuff like that. It's these recent seasons that are kind of like, like the relationship between Iris and Barry. Just I'm not super loving it. They don't feel as like genuine as they used to be for some reason. And I know it's the pandemic, they're not allowed to like kiss or anything, but I don't even think like kissing or doing anything that would change anything. I just feel like it's weird. Like I just feel like it's just not as a connection as it used to be. And Barry and like some of these characters are just they're really going into their tropes way too much. Like, man, like Barry just gets to his feelings and internalizes it way too much every episode. It's like, man, like I get it. Like sometimes you gotta feel like that, but not every situation. Like he's a superhero, you know. Like don't make him feel like me. Like make him feel like a fucking superhero. Like yeah, that can happen every once in a while. Maybe when the big bad comes in, but man, every episode, and it's like a big hindrance for this for the episode, because Barry's like, oh man, I couldn't do it, man. It's my fault. And everyone on Team Flash was like, Barry, no, like it's literally not your fault. It's cool. No one could have saw that's coming. It's my fault. And then it fucks up the entire mission. It's like, Barry, like you're a superhero. Like, come on, dog. Relax. Like if someone was dying, I get it, but no one's dying. There's no one's dying. You're just internalizing, and you're the Flash. You shouldn't be internalizing it that much. Maybe a little bit's fine, but not too much. And then like recently, it's just getting weird. You know, like it's just with the pandemic, it kind of their storyline kind of got mixed up. Their finale that they wanted to couldn't happen with the pandemic. So they had to like stop filming. They had to like leave it on a cliffhanger, which wasn't really a cliffhanger. Um, and like they had the first 3 episodes of the new season became the finale, which it wasn't really like that great. It wasn't like the storyline was kind of and now they're introducing this whole new thing with like the different like the forces, you know, because there's the speed force, but there's also something called the power force and the mind force and stuff like that. And they're kind of introducing that on the show, but it's kind of just not doing it. And then now I'm hearing that they're changing it so that Bart Allen, who is notoriously their grandson, they're changing it so Bart Allen is now their son, and he will be being introduced later this season. And it's like, I don't know how I feel about that, man. You know, like I don't know if I dig that. Like I kind of really wanted it to be his grandson. I thought that'd be interesting, because we already saw the daughter. You know, like we met the daughter. It would have been interesting if she would have came back with the actual like with a twin brother that was not Bart. But if she comes back and he's like this, because if the daughter comes back, that'd be cool. She was actually like she grew on me, although I didn't like her in the beginning. If she came back, she was like, I have a twin brother now, and it wasn't Bart. I forgot what his name was in the comics, but it wasn't Bart because Bart's the grandson. But yeah, the Flash is definitely in a weird spot right now, and there's a lot of things. You know, they're really playing on the Harrison Wells gimmick a lot. Like I love the actor who plays him. He's so good, but man, every season they have a new Wells, and now this one just is the new Wells for this season. It just seems crazy. It just seems like so much. It seems like it's a lot. So I don't know if it's true that Grant Gustin's trying to leave. Maybe it's a good time to end. I really hope they don't try to spin it off and make like a new version of the Flash or whatever, because they had Wally West on the show. Wally West has been on the show, but he just wasn't. He was more like Zen. He was more like just like of a bad boy for like a certain part. And then he left. You know, he was on Legends for a couple like episodes, but he left. And then now he's just like, who knows? I doubt they're gonna bring back Wally to continue the show. I don't know. I just don't know if Bart could do it. And then if they do it, oh man, they better not do the whole future thing, because that's why Green Arrow and the Canaries got canceled. That's all I have to say about the Flash. Up next will be Legends of Tomorrow. Now, Legends of Tomorrow, this show is a wild ride. It has had quite the change for a show. Season 1 started with Rip Hunter, homeboy Rory from Doctor Who. That was honestly the pitch. That's why I came into the show. Rory from Doctor Who playing Rip Hunter, a time traveler setting up a team. So basically, original season 1 of Legends of Tomorrow was Rip Hunter making the Legends of Tomorrow because he knew through time travel that they were going to be a team that saves time. So it's like a paradox, but it's badass. He assembled the team together. And it was like a way smaller team. It was like basically Sarah, it was Heatwave, it was homie with the cold gun. God, what the fuck is his name? Captain Cold. It was the homeboy that could turn into metal. I forgot that was his name. And then the Atom. And then the Hawkeye and Hawkgirl. Hawkman and Hawkgirl. Hawkman and Hawkwoman, whatever Hawks, them. They were part of season 1. It was a different show, honestly. If you look at season 1 of Legends of Tomorrow and compare it to season whatever the fuck they're on now, it's a way different show. Like, season 1 was like very dark and serious, and Rip Hunter was like pissed every episode, and it was like more broody, and it's like they had their funnier moments. But for the most part, it was definitely like a different, darker show. And then it's like I think I think Rip Hunter lasted like 2 seasons and then he left. Who knows? Not like he went back to Doctor Who, but that actor left and he left Sarah in charge. But it was like the thing about that though is after he left, the show drastically changed. Like it started becoming more self-aware. It started becoming more like humor based. It started becoming more like a Deadpool CW show, but in like a group. It was like if Deadpool's X-Force had a CW show. It was nuts. Like there was literally a season where the big baddie shapeshifted into like a giant demon, or it was like a devil, like the devil, and he shapeshifted into like his devil form, and they used literally the blood of Christ and a fucking stuffed animal named Bonbon or Bin Bon or whatever, and they morphed that into a giant fucking huge like kaiju sized stuffed animal, and they fought the devil, dude. With the blood of Christ in this bear. It was nuts. Like I couldn't believe what the hell I was watching. And in some lights it really works. Like their comedy and their self-awareness, like, you know, every year these shows have crossovers. And there was a year where they weren't on the crossover Legend of Tomorrow, and then in their episode, only one character was Sarah, and then she comes back and she was like, "All right, guys, I'm back. Sorry I was gone." And then the other characters are like, "Aw, were we not invited to the crossover this year?" And it's like, "Oh, okay." Like that shit's funny. Like they're self-aware because of like time travel, and they know, and like so really cool. But my only big gripe with Legends of Tomorrow, well, besides them, they're getting really insane now. Like last season, they're fucked to the timeline so bad that there was different like, I think they call them not paragons, or like different like time variants all around the world. It was basically what Loki's doing right now, but now they're going into like aliens. So like I don't even know what's going on with that. But one of my biggest gripes with this show is that it took characters that were definitely a certain way, and they fundamentally changed them. Like Ray Palmer, for example, the Atom, one of the smartest dudes in DC history. Smartest dudes. Obviously, he made an Atom suit. In the Arrow, he's a genius. He had Palmer Tech. He had all this shit, all this money. He had all them bitches. But as soon as he went to fucking Legends of Tomorrow, he was just a doofus, dude. They really played up his like sweet and innocent like doofus fucking side, and it was just so like bad, man. It made Ray Palmer insufferable. And like he's off the show now. He got married, which it's another term of saying the actor wanted to do something else. But it's like, man, like, bro, why you gotta do my boy Ray Palmer so dirty? And then they introduced God, what's his name? The second version of the Atom, the Asian version of the Atom. They introduced him in Crisis. And they didn't do anything with him. They didn't bring him back. I don't know who they are. It's like, what's going on? That's all I have to say about Legends of Tomorrow. Now, the next shining star, Supergirl. Now, we will pour one out for Supergirl, because this is Supergirl's last season. So, pour one out for Supergirl, ladies and gentlemen. F in chat. F in the chat for Supergirl. I'll put one right now. We got an F in the chat for Supergirl. Now, here's the thing. Supergirl Season 1 is... and it's another example of Season 1 way different than the current season. Now, if you're wondering why Supergirl is ending, it's because the actress who plays Supergirl had a child now. So congratulations. on the child. I hope everything's going well. I hope the child is healthy and great. But yeah, she wants to be a mom, like a full-time mom now, and she feels like the show is wrapping up and ending. And I agree. It's a perfect time to wrap up and end, because what the hell is this show doing? The current season is nuts. Like, I don't understand. Now, I think they dug their own hole with this show, with the story, and with Crisis. So let's start from the beginning of Supergirl, shall we? With the beginning of Supergirl, this is a very tricky time in the CW shows, because they weren't really allowed to reference like Superman and Batman and stuff like that, but they have a character like Supergirl coming into the mix, so it's like they kind of really had to work around not showing or using Superman. Eventually they did, they did introduce Superman in the show later, and then he spinned him off to his own show, which we'll talk about later. But for the most part, they really had to dance around that, and they kind of like hit the show. If I did have to describe season 1, it was really Devil Wears Prada meets Superman. And that's really because of her boss, Cat Grant, was definitely that, like, fucking that character, that boss, CEO, boss lady character. She definitely, like, that, it really played on that aspect. She was a really important character to Kara Danvers, which is Supergirl. So that dynamic and everything was, there and prominent for season 1. And then in season 2, I think she left. So the show started to switch a little bit, and it became more of like a bigger thing, started introducing the DEO and like the Martian Manhunter and stuff like that, and like more family stuff and bigger things, love interests and stuff like that, and other Kryptonians. And so the show definitely started to switch. It started making a switch to more like aliens. The show definitely tried to make a whole like comparison to racial injustices with comparing them to aliens. The CW is very prominently known for showing a lot of social issues in their shows, in my opinion, very ineffective ways. I do, meme and joke on Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but for the most part, Falcon and the Winter Soldier did a great job at handling racial issues and social issues, but the CW shows definitely don't. They definitely don't hit the same, and they're a little too obvious sometimes. But Supergirl, and I think Black Lightning does it a little better, in my opinion. But Supergirl, they definitely go for it. Batwoman season 2, they go for it, and they don't do it well either, if I'm being honest. But we'll talk about that later. This is a whole bunch of we'll talk about that later. So yeah, then they start introducing like bigger characters. They introduced Brainiac 5 or 4. I don't know which version of it. Which is right. He's right here. Martian Manhunter, he's always been there for a couple of seasons. He's honestly pretty dope. He's one of my favorite characters. I love Martian Manhunter. I was really excited they introduced him in the Snyder Cut. Kind of sucks they're not doing anything else with him, really. But, for the most part, I feel like Supergirl and Martian Manhunter are really cool. I hope after this show ends, Martian Manhunter does have a space somewhere. But there's a whole bunch of, like, characters, her sister. Then their version of Lex Luthor, which I don't really love either. And then there's a character named Dreamer, who's she's okay too. So the reason why the show, I feel like it's falling off right now, is because they're really leaning heavy on the Crisis side. Like, I feel like they should have just ended with Lex Luthor after Crisis. Like, this show is definitely going hard on Lex Luthor as the main villain. And it's been like that for like 3 seasons. And it's like driving me nuts. Like, their version of Lex Luthor is not that good, if I'm being honest. He has his moments, but he's not a good Lex Luthor. He's not that good he's not that great of a Lex Luthor. He's definitely a good villain at times. But I don't know, man. His Lex Luthor vibes just are not there for me. And it's like, it's rough in a lot of times. And they've been doing it for like 3 seasons. And then after Crisis on Heaven and Earth, like they've been going ham on him, like and like using Crisis as an example and using it for the story. Like, man, it's nuts. Like, they gotta relax. And that's why, like, I feel like it's falling off for me right now. Like, one of the best actors is the actor who plays Brainiac, or Brainiac 4 or 5 or whatever. He's one of the best actors probably for sure. But it's like, I don't see like what they're trying to do with this season. Like right now they introduced like I think they're kind of like we're in the same spot with like the Flash where they couldn't finish their previous season, so they're kind of finishing their last season with the beginning of this season. But it just feels weird. Like they introduced like these weird powerful gods that were trying to use the VR to take over the world and stuff like that, but Lex Luthor is trying to use the VR to take the god's power, and now Lex Luthor's a god, so now they have to fight Lex Luthor. It's like, oh man, it's like, I don't care. I don't care about Lex Luthor and his hypocritical. Oh, and I forgot that they're trying to make a tie with Lex Luthor and Donald Trump. Like, bro, I'm not a Trump supporter, but I don't need that in my Supergirl. I don't need that in my Supergirl. That's all I have to say. That's all I have to say about Supergirl. Now, let's talk about... There's 3 good shows out of, like, the reigns of, like, show. I mean, Flash is, like, half good, in my opinion. But there's, like, 3 genuinely good shows where I consider good that I think people should give a shot. And one of those, the first of that is Black Lightning. Now, if you haven't watched Black Lightning, give it a shout. Give it a check out. I think it was the CW's like first attempt to like really focus on black issues and talk about like racial injustices. And I think for the most part they did really good. I think now on this current season they're kind of getting a little too hostile with it, quite literally, because the character is quite hostile with the subject. But I mean. Oh, and there was a moment where they used genuine, like, clips from the riots, and I was like, oh, don't do that. I was like, I don't like that. Like, I was like, if you're gonna do that for the sake of plot, you know, don't use real-life B-roll. Like, you know, like, film your own riot. Like, don't get real-life B-roll, because that was too scary. And I don't know if that was the point. But man, so yeah, Black Lightning was pretty sick. I definitely enjoyed it. Had a good time with it. Their like soundtrack's fantastic, like really good. Whoever is working soundtrack or music design on Black Lightning, great. And even story, dude, story's awesome. It's the story of Jefferson Pierce and his family. And like Jefferson Pierce was a superhero who was like a superhero back in the day, but he retired to like get a family and shit. And everyone knows the legend of Black Lightning and everything in the town. And then, you know, the town gets real bad in recent years, like in recent years, so he has to come back. So and like the legend is reborn. It's so cool. It's like and the effects were really good. Seeing his lightning powers and the way he uses them were so awesome. Really cool. A lot of cool actors in it. Keke Palmer's in it for a couple seasons. Like the recent season, they kind of recasted her in a way that I didn't really like. But I guess that's just like how they're gonna do it in the show. But this is also, you know, it's pouring out another clap. This is Black Lightning's last season. Now it's not getting canceled. Apparently, CW and the writers came to an agreement. And they feel like this is the best way to end the show. I disagree, dude. I think the show could have definitely keep going. They're doing a spin-off, which we'll talk about later. I'll talk about a little snippet of it. I'll give a little information right now for sure, but we'll go into more details about the spin-offs later. But they're doing a spin-off. But man, I could love to continue to see the Black Lightning. I definitely thought they had potential. I thought Static Shock could have easily been introduced within his show. I know they're trying to do a Static Shock piece with Michael B. Jordan producing it on HBO Max. But man, they could have easily introduced Static Shock. He would have been a perfect character for Black Lightning on that show. And like, it would have spun off to a live action Static Shock show. It would have been so sick. But man, apparently they're deciding to end it. I think Black Lightning's a great show. Even now, like I'm watching it now, like and I'm still enjoying it. But yeah, that's all Black Lightning. I don't think we have to spend too much time on greatness, right? But next one isn't that much greatness because Batwoman. Before we get into Batwoman season 2, which is interesting to say the least, because not only did they recast Batwoman in season 2, it's definitely something. It's definitely something. Now, Batwoman season 1 was about Kate Kane, played by Ruby Rose. And she kind of was like this hard-ass lesbian, super cool, rides motorcycles, wears leather jackets. She was a badass. We'll definitely say that she was a badass, and she owned it. But just something felt so off about the show. Her voice just felt weird at all times in talking. It just felt like she was always like talking down and like angry at people for some reason. And I guess maybe that's the bat, like, and like not even in the bat suit, just like in general. Like I didn't really dig it. Like, and her obsession with like the storyline with like the storyline and the Flash obsession with her sister. Like I get it how it would affect her as a character, but man, like they really pushed the Alice storyline way too hard. And they made it a really big focus on the show, where I felt like it could have kind of been like Gotham, where they kind of explored a lot more. But yeah, man, and they definitely, they got hit with the thing with Supergirl that I talked about earlier, where they're not really allowed to mention. It's a show based around a character that they're not really allowed to mention. Bruce Wayne, Batman. You know what I'm talking about? It's literally Batwoman, and they're not kind of allowed to mention him. Like, they mention Bruce from time to time, but they try not to for the most part, like Bruce Wayne is now in the show, but technically he wasn't Bruce Wayne. He was Husk pretending to be Bruce Wayne. So it's like, it's they're stuck in a weird position. And so season 1 ended, right? It ended with basically kind of where the other CW shows were kind of stuck with, where they were kind of left with a cliffhanger, and they were going to resolve the issue in season 2. But everything happened with Kate Kane and Ruby Rose not wanting to be on the show anymore. So they recast it, and they kind of explained the whole recasting with Kate Kane dying, and Ryan Wilder, which is the actress who plays the new Batwoman. Or is that it's the character, but I forgot. I don't know the actress' name.